Sorry for an unceremonious opening. I realized my opening is not behaving on StreamYard. We are joined today by Terri Hardin. Thank you for joining the show. And I thought I'd do a little introduction. So welcome to a special episode of Nerdalism. I am Veronica. My guest is Terri Hardin. She has an incredible resume. Her talent, dedication, and imagination has helped bring to life Ghosts of New York, aliens from other planets. Her work has featured on The Happiest Place on Earth and Our Childhood Memories. If there is a geek and nerd royalty, she might be it. Please welcome Terri Hardin.
How are you? Everyone. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for joining me. This is really cool. I'm excited. I was telling you, like, before the show, I did a paper on you like a long time ago, back when I was a baby, just studying film in my women in film class. So this is a special treat for me.
This is pretty exciting. I'd love to see it sometime. It's pretty exciting. Yeah.
I'll have to hunt it down.
Yeah. Where is it?
Long time ago on a very old computer, probably dead. And then, of course, Joshua. Thank you, Joshua, for joining us.
Hello, Joshua.
who made this whole thing possible. In fact, some of the photos are going to come up tonight because he did give me some and you gave me some. So thank you.
It's totally Joshua's fault. Joshua did a chronology of my life. And whenever we're together, he says, that's not on there. That's not on there. And that's not,
we might even like come across some stuff that's not on there tonight. Yeah. Hopefully, maybe.
Yes. I mean, when you look at it, you say to yourself, it's really, really bizarre and weird. Always my fault, he says. Yeah. But it's always really weird that when you look at it, you don't really think you've done as big a body of work as I have. But I really, really have done a lot of stuff. And when Joshua showed me like 20 pages of what he had, pulled together, it was very surprising. He says, 3 Wikipedia pages and
wow.
It's just amazing. And I'm really glad that I'm here to help other people do that if that's what they want to do.
And if anyone hears the dean in the background, it's Hollywood calling. Don't worry about it, guys.
Yeah.
She's very busy.
That's it. I apologize for that, but yeah. I have to keep my finger on the pulse of entertainment.
Yeah, your agent might be calling at any second. You never know. So speaking of your career, wow. Just you started out when women weren't common on a film set, which, now there's incredible women in Hollywood today, but you started out back when it wasn't much of a thing.
No, and a lot of times women were always thinking that they had to be, as stunning as a Farrah Fawcett, a Halle Berry, and Angelina Jolie, or they really weren't going to get much of a career. Mm-hmm. And I really wasn't interested in those kind of roles. Good thing, because I didn't look at like any of those people. And I guess, well, as a young girl, I found that I loved theater, but people didn't like the way that I looked. Mm-hmm. And so when I auditioned, they would say, you look like your parents did something. So I'm mixed races. I'm half black, half white. And I'm 65 years old. And so I was born during the time that my parents met when Rosa Parks was fighting for her place on the bus. And then throughout, I went through things like segregated water fountains, segregated bathrooms, things like this. So if I went to the park, if you can imagine yourself as a little girl, we all have these wonderful childhood memories. You can imagine that there you are at the park and you're playing and you see all these kids running to the water fountain, and they're looking to get something to drink, and and they turn to their parents, and the parents pick them up or airplane them into the water fountain. And I turned to my father and I said, Daddy, pick me up. I can't reach the water fountain. And he didn't move. And finally he told me to come see him. And when I walked over to see him, he said, we can get a drink of water, but we need to go home. And afterwards, I realized that if he'd have touched me, picking me up and whatever, because he was black, he could have been arrested or shot. And so that is a childhood memory that I have where my father had to say, we have to be more careful when we're out in public, because even though you're my daughter, you're a little white girl and I'm a black man, and that could cause problems for both of us. So, very strange and unusual, but absolute truth. Yeah. hmm
That's
The absolute truth.
wow. So, did that help the artistic side, where that sort of adversity, did that sort of help your artistic side at all? It inspired it?
Well, here's a picture of I'm hoping I can show you a picture of my dad. Yeah, there's a picture of my father. And my dad was all about have humor. So I said, okay, let's have what does that mean exactly? So this is me as a little girl, and pumpkins seem to be very much in my life. But if you look at my hair, I have my father's hair and my mother's light skin, and of course I'm playing with pumpkins. I don't fall too far from the tree. She
Mhm.
got white saddle Oxfords on. They were big back then. But when I found out that people didn't like the way I looked, they didn't like the way my hair was, they didn't like the way my skin was, and they didn't like the idea that they couldn't tell me what I was. And so uh they couldn't tell what I was. They couldn't put me in a box. Okay.
Mhm.
My sister looked black or Hawaiian so that they could say she's black or Hawaiian, but I looked like just a mix. And at the time it wasn't appealing to them.
Mhm.
So my father saw that I was performing like crazy, and I saw Sherry Lewis one time, and I built a lamb chop. I sculpted up a lamb chop. I did little lamb chop, and lamb chop became my buddy while I was being, bullied and abused and stuff, because one side thought I was trying to pass, which is the term for passing as a color that you're not, even
Mhm.
though I was that color. And then the white side just didn't like the strange look. So puppets came across, and I said, well, this is great because nobody looks at me. They look at my character. And so as long as they look at my character, nobody cares what I look like. So I automatically fell in love with that and started to do that. And then one day I saw a little tiny film you may not know about called Star Wars. And all of a sudden I realized all of the things I was building, creating, designing had a place. And so I saw the movie 181 times, 83 times. And I'm in George Lucas's book Skywalking. And as a result, I met a lot of people. I wrote every name down because there was
Mhm.
no social media. There was no VHS, DVD. It was just the movie theater. So I sat in the movie theater for a very long time and just wrote everybody's name down.
Mhm.
And I was sneaking in the theater, and I got caught at my 67th viewing. And the reason I got caught was I had brought a bag with wigs and clothes and stuff, and would change my character every time I saw the movie. And he called me on the carpet at 67 viewings and said, "You've been sneaking into my film," the manager of the Chinese theater.
So you're
And
sneaking. You weren't like paying every time. You were sneaking
no, I
in?
snuck in early in the morning and stayed all day for 7 days. 7 days, every day I would go in and see it 67 times in 1 week. I saw it from the very first day. And I was writing down things. I was sketching. I was doing all of this stuff to learn about this movie. I was writing everybody's name down. I was saying, okay, how am I going to break into this industry? How am I going to cross over? And and this man, bless his heart, he caught me, and he said, "You've been up to no good, young lady." And I said, I, I said, well, I don't know. Like we all do. You kick the dirt and you go, well, ah, la, 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 la. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, I this movie has just changed my life, and this is what I'm going to do for a living. And he said, "You want to know how I caught you?" And I said, "How?" And he said, "You have the same handbag." And I was like, "Oh," you know. So he had seen me do this whole thing, and he had caught me with the handbag. So I said, "Okay, all right, well, whoops." And he said, "But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you come in for free if you let me use your if you let me use you as an advertisement to commemorate your 100th viewing. So for my 100th viewing, they gave me the poster of Luke and Leia and everybody that it was on the Chinese. It was six. It was a picture of all 6 characters, which I still have, signed on the back by David Prowse and Anthony Daniels. And I just loved it. And then from that point forward, I just went and saw it and saw it and saw it and saw it, sketched and sketched and sketched, and just would reach out to anybody I could at the time. I'd write to these people and write to these people. And one day I met Rick Baker, who did the cantina scene. And I sat in the back of the presentation and waited till everybody had cleared out. And then I walked up to him and I said, Mr. Baker, what do I do to do this in the film industry? And he says, well, first you need a portfolio. And I picked up my portfolio and opened it up, and he looked through it and said, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, how old are you? And I said, 18. He said, oh my God, how long have you been doing this? And I said, since I was about 3. He was like, what? So he took my name and he said, I don't think you have a place to work with me, but I may find someone. And that's really how it started. It started, Rick Baker told someone who told someone, and I started to do I started to be on these little projects and then bigger projects. And then my puppetry at my church, or my puppetry just in front of, I perform for anyone, telephone pole looks interesting. There I am,
Yeah.
So all of a sudden people were like, I don't know. And next thing I know, I'm doing a TV show for Hanna-Barbera when Henson closed down, and rest is history. Basically, if you want to do this and the door of opportunity opens, just go through it. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry if you can do it. Don't worry, blah, blah, blah. Worry about that stuff after.
Mm-hmm.
But as a young person, I always did that. And I thought everybody did it. And then when I finally saw that many people do not do that, I had to realize I was a unicorn. And as a unicorn, I had to share with others how they could get the strength to go through and do that. And that's what I do now. I just say, go for it. What have you got to lose? But if you let that door close, it may never open. So jump through and then worry about it afterwards.
You got a title, and you mentioned the book by Lucas, but you actually have a title from all those from your dedication to your craft and learning, which is #1 Star Wars fan.
Yeah, and I'm writing a book. Everybody says, yeah, when's that coming out? Because I'm always writing a book. I'm becoming this kind of person that is not. But I wanted to make sure that I can do it at like Star Wars Celebration. I can share at Star Wars Celebration. And then also, wasn't this year, but I think it was last year, they came out with Star Wars stamps of the droids. Mm-hmm. And I want to offer that. I'm a cachet illustrator, which means I illustrate first cover cachets. A first cover cachet is a envelope that the post office officially releases, and then artists draw or add something or whatever on them, and they're highly collectible. So you get this high-end art that you can collect that doesn't cost you a fortune. Now, it could cost you like $150 if it's hand-drawn, hand-painted. But the thing is, it's $150. It has the stamp. It has the cancellation. It has everything. And it's not like, $10,000 or anything like that. So as a cachet artist, I figured, well, rather than, when I do the book, I think for a special edition, I'll have that included. So you'll get the cachet art of the Star Wars stamps along with the book. So it's happening. It's just, if my family would just simmer down, maybe I could get some of these deadlines done.
something to look forward to. Maybe in London, because the next one is in London, right?
I'd love to do London, because I was going to London before we had the lockdown. And then, of course, I didn't get to go there. So I have a lot of friends over there that are really missing me and saying, when are you coming over? When are you coming over? So we're going to push for 2023. And hopefully that'll be a case. Oh. But I really fell in love with Star Wars, and I really started to build these, what they call cosplays now. And I built all these wild costumes and stuff for people and myself. And it started to explode. People would see you and go, hey, any interest in, or whatever. So it just, one thing led to another, and every door I went through. And
There's a
apparently
story
I went
about
through a
you.
lot of doors according to Joshua.
There's a yeah. So he says, right? In fact, there's a story that he wrote about you dressing as Luke Skywalker and having a Yoda on your back.
Yeah, I can show you. I actually dressed as the other Hope. So here I am as the other Hope, and the uh Yoda is carved with Fiskars. Do you know what those are? Those plastic scissors you kind of buy anywhere.
Okay.
I carved that head and that body using a pair of scissors and the mattress from my parents' couch.
Oh,
So I'm sure my parents were really thrilled to find that I had stolen their couch to sculpt a puppet, but they were kind of used to that craziness of me. And I dressed as a New Hope, and I built my blaster. I built my lightsaber. I built everything, and then I did a presentation at conventions because they used to have what was called the costume cavalcade. Now I guess it's a big deal, like at San Diego Comic Con.
mhm.
But I performed with my puppet, and I would get my, like, okay, so I went to a presentation where they said, you don't just walk across the stage like you're a model. You have to entertain. So I was like, okay. So I practiced, doing the Bespin bit that Luke does. So I ran around the backstage going, and I had dirt, artistically placed like they do in the 50s movies. So it highlighted my cheekbones and everything. And then I had Yoda here. And when I ran up on stage, I looked at the audience and I said, "Oh, Master Yoda," and Master Yoda, why did we stop? And he said, "Levitate the audience, you must." And so I closed my eyes and did this. And Yoda's here, and I'm like, and when I opened my eyes, everyone was on their chairs, and I went, and I. Okay, in that time, as a performer, in that time, my head is going, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And I opened my mouth and said, "Master Yoda, I did it." And he hits me in the head with his cane and says, "Great, kid, don't get cocky." And we run off and we win the entire event because of that. And so sometimes it's not necessarily how elaborate your outfit is, but the performance and the story you tell while wearing your outfit. And I think that's the same for today. But for me, people still talk about seeing that show and saying, I was in the audience and when we all decided to stand on the chairs and freak you out. And you didn't even miss a beat. I felt like it was, you could have driven a truck through my reaction,
Mhm.
but they felt like it was so fast that how did I plan such a thing? And I didn't. But yeah, and that just kept escalating, Then Empire Strikes Back comes out and I get this idea I got to have the first ticket, so I'm in line for 3 days fighting off everybody, not people, but they wanted to arrest me for loitering and all this crazy stuff. So I just kept fighting and that's another story. So it's just, when I say I'm the number one fan, nowadays you don't have to do that. You just go online and you buy a ticket, right? And then you
Yeah.
have it, or you stream it, right?
You don't
But
arrest the number one fan. Like,
back then, if you wanted that first ticket, you better get your little sorry behind in line, and you better be first,
so
So
you would wait days? Would you wait days in line?
days, 3 days,
Oh,
3 full days. And the owner of the Egyptian theater in Hollywood said, "If you're standing in front of my theater, you're loitering, and I'm going to have you arrested." And I said to him, I said, "You arrest me, you'll really be sorry, because my dad works for a radio station, and my first call will be to the radio station and talking about you being a jerk, because all I want to do is see this movie."
yeah.
And he got really angry, and he said,
Daddy?
he said, "Listen, if that's the case, you just keep walking." And so I walked back and forth, and I walked back and forth. But I had been performing as Magenta in the Rocky Horror Picture Show at the Tiffany Theater, and I called Jack, the owner of that theater, true story, and and I said, "Can I borrow your rope?" Because the guy from the Egyptian theater says, "Until I designate that that's a line, you better keep walking." And I was like, "Fine." And then I called him up and I said, can I borrow the pole and the rope?" And he said, yeah. And he drove it over from Sunset Boulevard over to Hollywood Boulevard. And I clipped it. And I stood there like this. And he came out and he saw it. Where'd that come from? It's not yours? Yeah.
Wow.
And then he got mad and he said, well, you can't sit or relax. You stand. You stand the whole time. That's what it says. Stand in line. You know, this is like Monday.
Yeah.
And it's going to open Wednesday at midnight. And I'm like, oh, man, this guy's just not letting up.
Oh,
And
no.
that was most of the day. And then at the end of the day, I'm standing there wrapped in a Star Wars blanket. I know you guys are rolling your eyes, but you do this too at Disney. I know you sitting on the ground, D23. So,
Yeah.
so no judging. I'm with you 100%. It's all what we like. The tailgaters who paint their bodies different colors for their football teams. We're all in the same boat. We're all the same nerds, just different icons. And so I'm standing there and this big van pulls up, unmarked van, and out steps a man I knew from San Diego Comic-Con, Craig Miller. To this day, Craig Miller is very well known with Lucasfilm still. But he stepped out and he said, is that Terry? And I said, Craig. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, oh, man. I said, the guy inside, he's just been, he's been awful. And I tell him the story and Craig says, well, why don't you sit down? He said, you look exhausted. Just sit down. And I was like, no. I'm not going to get arrested for seeing it. He goes, no, you're not. Sit down. So I sat down and I put my back against the wall. And back then the Egyptian theater was all open with a long walkway to the front door. And I peeked around the corner like this to see what they were doing. And Craig was like this with the guy and poking the guy. And the guy was like this. And Craig went like this. And then I saw Craig go like this. And I saw the theater manager go. And Craig went. And he went. And Craig came out and he said, you have the first ticket. You can go home, get some rest. You can have a shower, whatever. And I was like, I'm not leaving. And he said, well, if you feel like you will, he said, the manager knows you're going to get the first ticket in a couple of days. I've had a conversation with him. And I said, well, what did you say? And he said, I told him that if he harasses any fan again, that we'll pull the film. And the doors opened up and Empire Strike Back reels bounced out. And I was like, what? And he said, the Chinese down the street will take it in a New York minute. So I told him, if you want this film to play here, you better treat the fans right, starting with her. I don't want to hear it. And so that's the way it happened. And he drove away. They rolled the film into the theater and then he drove away. And across the street at the time, Hollywood Boulevard, they had a deli. And the man across the street was running through traffic with a tray. And he stuck it under my nose and he said, you have fought the good fight all day, but you've not eaten. Eat. And threw the tray in my lap. And I was like, oh, thank you,
That's sweet.
Yeah, so it's stories like that. There's more to it, but I mean, seriously, this is what I'm telling you. First of all, I don't give up. Mm-hmm. And if you want something bad enough, you have to, God's going to see if you're worthy. You get kicked and how far you're going to go. And then the other thing is, if you get this opportunity, you just run with it, no matter how crazy it is. So I got the first ticket and I was very, very, very excited about it. And I was coast to coast on the news. Everybody covered because they couldn't believe this crazy girl had stood in line for that ticket. And they asked me what I collected because nerds collect, don't we? And I said I collected one sheets or the posters. So posters came in from all over the world to my home. And I had posters, Star Wars posters from Italy, from Prague, from Poland, from Japan, from China, it was just exciting to see all of the art. And I just simply rolled them up and kept them safe. And then in 1987, there was a big sale with Profiles in History. And I sold my collection and made about 6 figures because I had this 1977 perfectly preserved collection of things, and people had been stalking me. There were people that said, we were waiting for you to give up your posters because your posters we knew were the authentic thing. So it's as people say, it's a life that seems a bit magical, which is why, when you're a unicorn, that's kind of the way it is. And we're not bragging. We're just saying that you can do it too, but you have to just draw that line in the sand and say, no one's going to dictate what my life is going to be like.
Don't give up.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
And as for not giving up, how did you because you went on to do rides and movies, how did that get started?
Well, when I was a little girl, it seems to always happen when you're a little girl. But when I was a little girl, I loved Disneyland. But our family was like most families. You went once or twice. You sat in the middle of Main Street. You synchronized your watches, and the parents said, "Okay, kids, go for 2 hours. We meet here for lunch. We'll have our lunch, and then you can dissipate again, and then we'll meet to go home." Or fireworks or whatever. So this is the case. I think there was a commercial a long time ago where everybody looked like the SWAT team. The family was like, got it, whoosh, But my parents knew that I wasn't real good with time. And so I would go to the Jungle Cruise almost every time. If they couldn't find me at lunch, all right, where is she? And my dad would say, probably Jungle Cruise. And they would go to Jungle Cruise. And there I was going back in the day where you could just go on the Jungle Cruise forever.
Right.
That and Mr. Toad's, because I liked going to hell and being living to tell about it. But I still get a kick out of that. But I was sketching the animals, and the cast member said, that there's a group of people that do this, that create this. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, they're called Imagineers. And I was like, well, what's an Imagineer? And he says, they create that. And I said, well, what exactly? So as we're going around and round, he's telling me in between his shows about Blaine Gibson, who was the #1 sculptor and is still known very well he's a legend, Disney legend. And he said he sculpted the animals, he sculpted the people, he designed a lot of the things that are here. And that's that special section of Disney that builds what we call here, not rides, attractions. And I was like, oh. And he said, so you should apply. Well, at the time I was like 8. So I said, well, okay. So I started to comb the paper again, watch Wonderful World of Color, try and learn as much as I could about Blaine Gibson. And then my mother got hired at Disney, and they were looking for the voice of Figment. And my father worked at a radio station, and he knew Mel Blanc. So Mel Blanc brought me in at 14 and talked to me about voice, how to create voices. And I would just listen to him do this huge amount of voices because Mel Blanc is Mel Blanc. You're like, oh my God, yeah. Bugs Bunny. Oh my God. Oh my God. Besides see, sigh, so, and you go, oh my God, you have been everywhere. And he's like, well, thank you. And you're like,
that was a good impression.
Yeah, you're like, thank you. And they're humble. They're really sweetful and sweet. So he gave me some tips, and then my dad recorded what I thought would be a good Figment voice. And my mom took it into Disney, and I became one of the 3 top kids for Figment's voice and was flown to Florida to do the finale. Now, the thing Disney said was they didn't want an actor. They wanted a child like Christopher Robin. Mm-hmm. But when push came to shove, they ended up hiring Billy Barty, the non-actor, to do this. And, nothing came of it for us. But it was really fun to go to the studios at 14. And, you have the cans on, as they call it. And they had Figment moving around, and you had to sync it up. And it was a party. It was just so fun. And I said, I got to do more of this, So I got hooked on performing. I got hooked on sculpting. My mom tried to get me into Imagineering. I have enough rejection letters to wallpaper, half of the United States. So don't give up if you want to be an Imagineer. Just keep what I call Shawshanking them. Because in the Shawshank Redemption, isn't that what Mr. Dufresne does? Mm-hmm. He keeps writing a letter so he can create a library for the inmates. And once they write him back and tell him they have no funds, he writes 2 letters a week. So whenever I want someone to listen to me, I keep pestering them until they either tell me, go away, kid, you bother me, or at least sit down and figure out what I want. Always with politeness, but consistency. So that's what I'd say. And anytime you get a rejection letter, just go, no, Disney, you're not going to tell me what I'm not going to do. One day you're going to hire me. And sure enough, when they finally saw my work, they were like, where have you been? And I said, stupid me. I was knocking at the front door. I should have come in the back.
You weren't loud enough.
And became an Imagineer. Yeah.
So did you study? Because I know a lot of people often ask, and that was my big question when I was first getting started, was like, okay, no, I understand the want and the job, but how do you like bridge in the middle? So what was your bridge? Did you like study and there was an application and that was your first big break, or what was your moment?
No, and I know some of you are going to go, but I will give you the formula. I promise. I'm not going to tell you, draw, keep drawing, keep practicing, all of that, right? I think every Imagineer says, well, this is what you do. You'll study anatomy and you'll go to your art classes and be sure to practice, practice, practice. I think you all know that, okay? I will give you the clue. I will give you some real actionable, you can take it now stuff, because that used to always drive me crazy. How did you get into acting? Well, I was sitting at Schwab's sipping a soda and, they walked in and said, wow, you're it. Well, that doesn't really help you working.
Yeah.
So I know how that feels. But to answer your question, I was what's called an obsessive creative. I saw it. I wanted to do it. And if you talk to Imagineers about their childhood, you will find many of us are this obsessive creative. Tony Baxter, at the age of, I think, 13, built a roller coaster, small roller coaster, designed it, built it, created it. And then when he was able, he refined it, and then he walked into Imagineer and he demonstrated it. And they were like, oh my God, have you seen this? Bob Gurr used to take things apart like toasters, and I can imagine his parents were thrilled. Toasters, clocks, everything, and then build them into something else that was fully functioning at about 9 years old. Me, I took Easter eggs at 8 years old, drew them into little people. My mother took them to work and sold them for $20 each. So at 8 years old, I made about $600 or $700. So the starve as an artist thing is a state of mind, not really true. I mean, if you're letting people tell you you're going to be a starving artist, then stop listening to that and realize that if you keep creating, someone goes, wow, are you selling those? And you go, okay, and so I'm doing this. I'm creating. I'm building. I'm doing this. I'm doing it like crazy. Do I know where it's going to go? Do I know what it's going to happen? I don't know. I just, wow, that looks good. Ooh, that looks good. And I would just build and build and create and do all this crazy stuff. And people see a whirling dervish all through my school. They were like, I just don't know what that is over there, that person, but my God, stuff is coming out of that kid that we can't even imagine. My God, she did the set. She plays the violin. She acts. It just was, if I saw it, I wanted to do it. So now everybody starts to notice. Everybody starts to talk about it. You create buzz without your intending to create buzz. You're just this nut who is making spectacular things. And we saw this a lot during the pandemic, people missing Disneyland and putting their own rides and attractions in their backyard.
Oh,
They just built it. I want the Matterhorn in my backyard. Boo!
Haunted mansion, bang. Yeah.
Exactly. So I would just do, we all do that. And so people, the biggest question is, how did you become an Imagineer? Well, I just kept pushing. I sculpted in foam. You remember the Yoda. Well, from the Yoda, I loved Japanese animation. And at the time, you had to go to Little Tokyo. You had to send away for it and wait 2 weeks for it to come back. It wasn't like it is today where you turn on a channel and there it is. Mm-hmm. San Diego Comic-Con, which used to be about comics, it was the only place that you could see anime in the world during the time of the early 80s. And so I was torn between going down and entertaining with some of the panels or just staying up in my room and watching anime for like 5 days, because there was no other way I could get it. So because of that, I started building these exotic costumes from what I saw from anime. And people were like, I don't know what it is, but it's really cool. I don't know what that is, but it's really cool. So that's when you're just this kind of a person and it happens. Someone said, if you can do that for you, can you do it for us? And Dune came along and reached out to me and said, you're a foam sculptor. I said, okay. And they said, can you make costumes? And I did a lot of the Dune suits. So I built the Dune suits along with a team of about 10, 15 people. And that was because I understood it, because I had built my own. I built out of foam because I thought I couldn't afford to sculpt and mold it. And then I found out in the industry, this is what they were doing. They were doing it out of foam, and they found out there's a kid who's been doing it since she was about 10. And so I helped sculpt these suits. I could design them for women. I could alter the designs for women. I could alter the designs for children. Whereas many people would just try to stretch the pieces and make them fit, or cut them into funny shapes and make them fit, because none of them had what's called patterning experience. So one thing led to another. I'm at Dune. I'm making these suits. I'm creating these outfits. And then they said, oh, you're about Sean Young's height. Are you interested in stunt doubling for her? She doesn't want to run around in the desert. And I said, sure. So I'm the one that plays Sean Young running around in the desert, because I thought that, okay, was awful, but it was still fun too. But I so anytime someone would say, do you think you'd like to do this? You'd like to do that? And if it sounded cool, I said, yeah. So for those of you who are saying, yeah, but you didn't tell us how to become an Imagineer, one of the most biggest blessings that one of the blessings you guys have now is the internet, don't you? The social media, you have that. It can be a curse for some, but it can be really a blessing for you, because if you are ready to be an Imagineer, you have to ask yourself, what division do you want to do in Imagineering? And you may say, I don't know. Well, time to look and see what we do. I always wanted to design attractions. So I said, how do I design attractions? I didn't have the internet. I had to do it like most people. Please, sir, may I have a job? And then they would say no. And you'd go, please, sir, no. But now you can just do it. So let's say you decide you want to be someone who designs attractions like myself. You can actually get with your friends, lay out an attraction or a land that you think Disney should have, and make it, and then show it on, and then demonstrate it on your social media channel. And you put your little, what does my husband call it, a bug at the bottom. And then they take a look at it. They're looking. Don't think they're not. And the next thing you have to do is wait, because they'll call you and say, hey, are you interested in working? And you just keep creating and keep creating, but you post it. Now, here's the thing many of you out there as artists don't do. You post your art so we can see all this beautiful art, but you don't post your dream. So you have to post your dream as well. You can't just put up a bunch of art, because what do we do? Like a lemming, like. And the problem is that isn't what Disney is interested in. They're interested in knowing how you tick and what it is that you're passionate about, and why did you design this thing? They want your story. So you tell them, I've always wanted to be an Imagineer, and so I've designed this. Ta-da! And when could you do that? Go.
Yeah.
Right now.
It should be done.
Get with your guys, draw it up, put it together, make it happen.
Yeah.
And a little 8-year-old boy I met was designing roller coasters. And I said to him, if you want to be an Imagineer, post your roller coaster and say, I've always wanted to be an Imagineer. Check out my amazing roller coaster. And it'll go like this. And then and by the way, I'm 8 years old. My phone number can be found at the bottom of my screen. They're going to fall in love with you. They're probably going to put you in some sort of, training program. Mm-hmm. So it's never too early and it's never too late. You just have to share what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how does it pertain to the Disney way? Why do you like it? Now, I didn't have that opportunity. I had to schlep a portfolio, a pretty good size, heavy portfolio, and flip through it so that they could see what I did and say, just cut me loose on something that you want me to do, and I'll prove it. Yeah. And when I saw that they were going to do Dragon's Lair in Paris, I said, that's mine.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, it's awful bold of you. And I was like, nothing about it. I'm the mother of dragons. You're going to give me that.
The
You're going to give me that.
Khaleesi.
You're going to give me that. I said that in my division. That is mine. It says there in very small letters, property of Terri Hardin. You are giving me that project. And they were like, it's just a stone dragon. It is not designed to do anything. It's a stone dragon. That's the hub. It works a lot like the hub at Disneyland with Walt and Mickey. That hub doesn't move. This isn't going to move. And I was like, that is insane. I said to my supervisor, that is the biggest crock of baloney I've ever heard in my life. And my supervisor said, well, tell me how you really feel. Okay, it's bullshit. And he's like, okay, maybe you shouldn't tell us what you feel. You know? But I said, we're Disney. We're not Magic Mountain. We're not Universal. We're Disney. Disney doesn't do half. We go all in, you know, we go all in. We put everything. We create magic. We make magic. We don't ask. We just do. And he says, don't preach to me. You've got to go to the head. You've got to do the person who's designing. And that was Tony Baxter. I said, who is this Tony Baxter? And they were like, the senior VP of Imagineering. Well, get him down here. Yeah. And my supervisor was like, we don't get the senior VP down here. And I said, well, tell me where he is. I'll go see him. You don't just go see. Terri, don't you know anything?
No one tells you no, though. So
I just said, you know, we can't. You understand? This is not allowed. Okay, that's what you're not understanding. Okay, so figure it out. How do we meet? And so he went, oh, you're not going to stop with this. And I went, no. And he said, what if I can get you an audience with Tony Baxter for 20 minutes? Can you do your presentation, Miss Chatty Cathy, for 20 minutes? And I said, I'll do it. So I said, okay. So I find out Tony's going to come down. So I create charts. I have a coat that has a dragon on the back of it. And and then there's I draw on the front, and I've got the whole concept of what the dragon's going to do, how it's going to look, what the cave's going to feel like. And Tony walks in, and I can tell because he has a lot of entourage, a lot of people around him, a few people with pads. I guess they're going to take notes, a couple with refreshments in case Tony gets thirsty, and another with a chair because I guess the man is going to sit down. And the chair opens up and he sits down, and I am in my lab coat with my dragons all over me and a chart. And I am in position. True story again, guys. I never lie. I'll always tell you the truth. Well, sometimes I'll lie, but in this case, I was in that track position that a sprinter is in when the gun is about to go off. So there I was, ready to go. And Tony looked at me and he just thought, I don't know. He said at the time after we became friends, he said, I had no idea what I was looking at. This girl who looked like she had to go to the bathroom. I don't know, but I was just like, you know. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, are you Tony Baxter? And he said, yes. And he said, you're Terri Hardin? And I said, yes. And he said, okay. And I said, say go. And he was like, what? And I said, say go. And he says, go. And I said, okay, here's what's going to happen. This is the way I envisioned the dragon. I envisioned the dragon a big cave, and the cave is cold because caves are cold. And then the dragon is warm. So you have this warmth as you get close to the dragon, and then the dragon opens his mouth. And then when the dragon is sleeping, he's like, and he goes, whoa, 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 stop. Whoa, oh my God. And I'm like, look, Baxter, time. And he's like, Baxter? I said, listen, you gave me 20 minutes and now you're cramping my style. What's the matter with you? And he's like, and so he says, all right. If I give you more than 20 minutes, will you slow down and tell me what you're thinking? And I said, sure. And so I walked him all over my illustrations and my concept art that I had done, mostly rough. And I said, the dragon has to live. We're Disney. It cannot be stone. It has to live. And he really was touched by that, I guess, because he said, okay, I'm going to agree to this on one condition, Terri. And I said, what's that? And he said, you design it. And I went, okay. Because had I ever designed an attraction before? No, never. Did I even think he was going to tell me I got to do it? No. But there was one thing I knew, that I knew dragons that I felt better than anybody else. And I knew I could create something magnificent. And so he gave it to me. And there I stood as he walked away, standing there, not really sure what happened. And he was gone as quickly as he had arrived. And I just was like, oh. And everybody looked at me like, how in the hell did you do that? I was like, what did I do? You know, I just wanted the dragon to live. I wanted the dragon to be real. And then when all of Paris really did not want Paris Disneyland. They drew obscene pictures of Mickey on the land even before we broke ground there. So a lot of the French were really angry because they didn't like the fact that the land that had been taken was from farmers who had it in their families for 300 years, but it was government land. Mm-hmm. So they had the right to take it. It just, the families kind of felt after 300 years, it must be ours. But it wasn't. And so when the park finally opened, people voted Dragon's Lair as the #1 attraction, and it's not an attraction. It is a hub that you go from one place to the other. Now it's been christened as an attraction because everybody calls it an attraction, but it was their favorite. And I remember that Tom came by and said, you're not going to believe this, but they like the dragon better than the castle. And I was like, because the dragon lives. Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't because I did it. It was because I wanted the dragon to live. I wanted people to be able to go underneath and see a 35-foot living, breathing dragon. And every detail I did, because I wanted you to believe that was absolutely the real deal. So what an exciting opportunity to get to do that, you know.
Magic lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My first attraction was Big Thunder, but I did it with a guy who was kind of mean. You know, you're talking about women not being in there very much. Absolutely. And he was a real chauvinist, you know what? And so we fought for a while. And finally, I just told him, you know, you carve what you carve, I'll carve what I carve. And just don't talk to me. Okay. I block what I carve. I'll do it on Big Thunder Paris. Mm-hmm. And then something shifted. We started to like what each other was doing. And then Michael Eisner cut our budget by $1 million, and we had to lose something on Big Thunder, and our hearts were broken. And I kept saying, I think we should lose what I sculpted. And he kept saying, no, I think we should lose what I sculpted. And I was like, no, because Disney fans love a secret. And his was a secret cavern. So when you're rowing the boats in Paris, the cast member says, "Ooh, look, I've never seen that before." And there's like a crack in the mountain because Big Thunder is in the middle of the water. So you go on the land, you go underneath the water, and you come up on an island, and Big Thunder's on an island. So you row around it in the boats, in the canoes. And so if you're in the canoe, there was this crack that we had created. Actually, he did. Mm-hmm. And the cast member goes, I've never seen that before. Would you like to go exploring? And hopefully they say, yeah. And he goes, what secrets will we discover? I don't know. And you'd row in and you had to duck. But once you got in, it was a huge sand cave. And you could sit straight up and the water reflected and the colors. And man, it was stunning. It was so cool. And I thought the guest is going to go crazy because they're going to be torn between whether they tell you or just go, you know, trying to keep quiet about it. And what he did is he came in at 6 o'clock in the morning and he cut it all away because he really liked my arch, which is there. He just felt like it would be a penny in the water from above. So he wanted the arch to remain, which is what I sculpted. And I said, but who cares who's flying over it?
Yeah.
You know, but that's how it changed. So people still love it very much. And it is still a great attraction, but we were heartbroken that Eisner did that to several of our designs. And it happens, and the park will do that too, guys. So you want to go to the attraction as quickly as possible because the park starts to put their changes on it based on their criteria that they need. And so the attraction can change. If you're here in California, you will remember how Indiana Jones was originally and what it's like now. And they just are nowhere near each other. The ride is kind of, but the queue is just nothing. So it was so amazing when it first opened, but that the park just says it's too much to, we don't want to work that hard in some cases, the park will say, and then you lose out. So always go to the first, so you can say at least you saw it when. Indiana Jones is still a great ride. Everybody still loves it. Not that they don't. They're like, oh, the queue's no good, I'm not riding it. No, they don't do that. But the point is, if you really want to see what came from the Imagineers, that you want to see it as quickly as you can when it's introduced.
Although if you think about it, that's a little magical too, because if you remember it one way and heck, the magic changed it. Sorry, it's fleeting.
Exactly. And that's why I say about Rise of the Resistance, please go see that quickly, because there's areas in that attraction Disney may eliminate because it's slow. It doesn't just zip you through from A to Z, and they're looking to get as many people through the attraction as possible. But that's why we like Rise, because there's starts and you walk places, you experience things, you ride, you walk, that's why we like it. But they could change that because they want it to be faster. So be aware that you got to check it out early so that if they do happen to change it in that respect, at least you saw what it was, and now you can appreciate what it is, but you got to see both.
Compare, yeah. In fact, speaking of rides that have changed, you had something to do with pirates too.
Pirates of the Caribbean, I didn't really have much to do with pirates, except for I sculpt one-of-a-kind collectibles now. I'm the come here, get away Imagineer. So Disney will call when they need someone speedy to do some carving of rock work or a certain area on an attraction. Terry, we're behind schedule. Can you come out for a week or so? I'll catch them up, and then they go, okay, goodbye. Get away. You know, and it's great. It's fine for me because I have my own company and whatever. But what they also do is they allow me to do some collectibles for people. So I have collectibles that I do for a lot of people. Usually only 50 of them are available. And then I'll do one-of-a-kind concept art. So you can call me up, reach out to me and say, I've always wanted this sculpture this way, or I've always wanted my character to be this way. And we will talk, and then you help me design and create it. It's a lot of fun. They are an investment, but they're worth it. And so what was happening with that is that Guillermo del Toro, I had done Pirates of the Caribbean for Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean 18th anniversary. I'm not good with numbers, so forgive me. I did one for Haunted Mansion, and I did an anniversary for Haunted Mansion. I think it was their 30th or something. And then I did some pieces and these were pass holder events at Disneyland. And so Guillermo saw these pieces somewhere. And so he went down to Disneyland to try to get the originals. And Disney told him they didn't have them anymore. And I think they did. We don't have them anymore, Guillermo. No, don't look back. No, don't. So
go away.
I was doing pumpkin sculpting. I was teaching people how to sculpt pumpkins, and I said, I get this call from my agent. She says, Terry, she's Southern. She says, Terry, Guillermo called you. But in California, I also do the Foster Farms chickens. And the Foster Farms chickens are this funny, crazy pair of chickens that I designed in 1993 that are trying to be, so you can see here, this is our team. I'm the passenger one. You can see that we're in suits, from green screen suits to red screen suits. And in the bottom corner there, I'm climbing into a cannon because my character is going to be shot out of a cannon. And they're just a great group of, they're just so much fun to do. I love these commercials. Been doing them for a while. And Guillermo Navarro, who is Guillermo del Toro's cinematographer or lead camera person, the one who makes sure that all of the cinematography looks beautiful, worked with us on Foster Farms. So I say to my agent, which Guillermo? Guillermo Navarro or Guillermo del Toro? She says, I don't know, he's Mexican. Well, that helps. And Nancy, they're both Mexican. You know? So she gave me his phone number and hung up. And I said, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do if it turns out to be Del Toro." Well, long story short, it was Guillermo del Toro. And he said, "Terri, I am your biggest fan." And I said, "Can I get that in writing?
Right?
And what's it for? My acting, I hope." And he said, "No." And I'm like, he said, "No, as a sculptor, I wanted to buy your Pirates of the Caribbean, but no." And I said, "Oh, you went down to buy the original?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "What would you do? What does it cost for you to make one for me?" And I said, "Well, which one do you want?" And he said, "I want it like Disneyland." And I said, "Well, what you need to understand is I have a huge policy. Once I put a limited edition, it's a limited edition. I do not recreate that piece like that ever again."
Mhm.
And he said, "You understand, you're talking to Guillermo del Toro." And I said, "Now, wait a minute. Don't get all excited. Disney did something that I don't really like, which is put Johnny Depp in the attraction. But for you, this is a good idea because Disney doesn't just plunk Johnny Depp as the pirate in certain areas and not refurbish the entire attraction. They go through and they refurbish the entire attraction." And they had changed the scene that Guillermo wanted, which was the captain's pirate bed.
Mhm.
They wanted his pirate bed, as he called it, his pirate bed. The captain's pirate bed, they had changed. When I had done it in 1998 for the Pirates event for pass holders, they had put a lot of pillows around the bed because the water makes the fabric rot. So rather than get in there and put new fabric on, they covered it with pillows for the original design. Well, when they went in for Johnny Depp, they took all of that off and they reworked that skeleton. And instead of having the skeleton captain have cuffs all the way to the wrist, the skeleton captain had, let me see if I can find it. No, show you. It's either under pirate bed or, yeah, it is. There we go. Okay, so the skeleton captain, this is it that I did for Guillermo. And the skeleton captain has the bony wrists. And so now you can see that the outfit of his nightgown is at the elbow. So we said the nightgown's at the elbow, the hat is different, the bed is different, and you have a dead parrot that they added in the attraction. So now what I think we can do is this new piece. We can do this for you, Guillermo. We can make it larger, and then we can make this specifically a new piece for you where it is not the 1998 version, it's the 2010 version. And he said, "Oh, that sounds great." So he invited me up to his home where he has his entire collection. I took my 1998 art proof so he could look at it, along with sketches on how I would change it and how I would make the adjustments for it. And the way I did the adjustments were, I'm going to look and see if I can find, here it is. This is the skull that I sculpted for the bed. It's about the size of a quarter. And this is toy wax.
Wow.
So toy wax, it takes 400 degrees to melt it. So if you see the quarter here, you can see it's very detailed. The teeth are like stupid. Okay, let's just call it like it is. The teeth are stupid. Stupid small.
They're piratey.
What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you, you crazy woman sitting there sculpting teeth? And then I did the parrot, and the parrot was the size of a 50-cent piece. So it was nuts. I sat there and I said, "What am I doing? What's the matter with me?" So we'll take you on a little journey of the bed. I don't have a lot of pictures, but I can show you some. This is the sea chest, in which I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you're an artist, wouldn't it be cool if wouldn't it be cool if we'll kill you? So I thought, well, what if we open it? And my mold maker went, "Yeah, that's going to be more money." And here it is here, which you can actually open it. And inside it's all rotted and deteriorated, has its water damage. All of the pillows are handmade. The bed, this is the hardest part because I was
Wow.
scared to death that I would spell Guillermo's name wrong. You know, nothing like showing it off and him say, "But you spelled my name wrong." That would have been really awful. So I took, though, because the original one, it was black because it was meant to be on the shelf. But Guillermo had a table he made me walk around because he told me we were going to look at all sides. So I had to come up with something, and I came up with this idea. And here is the front of it. So the pattern is hand done. Everything is hand done. There's pearls and rubies on here. You can see the parrot in the corner, which is all bones, and you can see through his rib cage. I'm crawling along the floor trying to find one of the bones after it snaps off, saying, "What the heck is the matter with me?" Doing the rib cage, but here he is over in the corner. And I just moved him next to the bed. So if you're a sculptor and you're duplicating Disney, the idea is not to duplicate Disney, but understand where it's going to be displayed. And then when it's displayed, you want to make it interesting for the display. So it used to be over by the harpsichord, the bird. When Disney saw this, I went and rode the ride, and they had moved the bird next to the bed. So now when you ride it, it's next to the bed.
They're
And I
watching
figured
you.
that Guillermo showed it to them, and they thought, that's a good idea. Let's move it next to the bed. And a lot of times that what Disney does is they watch what I do and they say, hey, that's kind of cool. Let's do that. And it's pretty doggone smart, if you think about it, to watch what fans are buying and selling to each other. And then when you want, you just take it back. You know,
Yeah.
it's your brand. You know, we all know that, right? So it was pretty amazing. But here's a picture of us. Well, let me show you how absolutely small this piece is. So that's the plaque. This woman is nuts. That's what I'm gonna say. And here I am working on it, and then here I am with Guillermo at his location, and he's all happy about the piece. He's just really just tickled. And here we are autographing the book. I gave him a book that tells about the whole process, and that way I said, you can take it. You don't have to take your sculpture around. You can take the book, put it in your luggage, and show it off to anybody you want to. And he really loved it. And then he had a show at LACMA, the LA County Museum of Art, and he called me up. I was actually appearing on the East Coast, and he said, Teddy, you made the cut. And I said, what cut? And he said, your piece is in my show. And I was like, what? And he said, yeah. And the program has me right under Harryhausen. So I was feeling my oats, man. I was feeling pretty full of myself about that time. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Oh my goodness. He's an amazing director too. So having someone like him say he's a fan.
He was. And then he had me over for Thanksgiving. So we're eating Thanksgiving in Guillermo's house, and we're saying, this is just not happening. You know, you're yeah, you're pinching yourself. What the hey? You know, what? Yeah. Well, we've been friends ever since. I keep telling him he needs to let me do. I have a couple of pieces I'd love to do of his stuff, and he keeps saying, no, but we'll do something later. You know, so it's very cute.
Are you a fan of any of his work? Because I know one of his movies is one of my favorite movies of all time. Are you a fan of
Pan's Labyrinth was my biggest, because
yeah.
I did a show called Monkey Bone.
Mhm.
And when I was in Monkey Bone, I played a character called Betty Bovine, 3 balls for $1 in Comatown. And she's a really wild, crazy character. And I got to do her puppeteering and her voice. That's the great Henry Selick, who just said, if you can do the voice, we're going to let you do it. But the Yeti was played by Doug Jones. And it was very early in Doug Jones' career. So he had not yet gotten together with Guillermo, and we became really good friends. So when Pan's Labyrinth came out and I found out it was Doug, I just about lost my mind. And I texted him and I said, what? And he was like, yeah, right. And that was my favorite movie until Shape of Water. And now Shape of Water, because Doug just he should have been nominated for Academy Award. The piece is you know, you fall in love with this character. You don't have to be a nerd to fall in love with that character. I think everybody falls in love with that character and those two. And I think it's done. The film was so beautifully done. There were areas that you could have really messed that up.
Mm.
And he does such a, oh, it's just stunning. It was just stunning. So those are my two favorite Del Toro films. And if you love Pan's Labyrinth, you have to watch the special features, because I always say to Guillermo, my favorite thing is that he talks about the movie, and then there's a scene where one of the guys in the film looks at the camera in the final cut and he cusses about it. He sits there on the thing and he goes, "That guy," he's really mad because the man looks at the camera and nobody caught it, so it's in the film. So it's my favorite behind the scenes. I just crack up over it because I know exactly what that's like, and so I tell him that's my favorite. He goes, "Of course it is," you know. So, but it's I love behind the scenes, but that movie is just incredible.
He did an amazing job on Crimson Peak too, which was
Mhm.
not many people know about, and I like to tell everyone, and I'm like, that is why he's my favorite. And of course the chat is going nuts about Doug Jones, who is
Yes,
Hocus Pocus.
Doug has been my friend for years, and then I was really happy when he got to be Doug, because when you're a suit performer, a lot of times you dream of being yourself as an actor,
Mhm.
because it's very difficult and very challenging to be a suit performer. It takes a lot out of your body, and he does such beautiful work that it was great to see him as himself. And I really we I applauded him for being able to be himself in a film. But yeah, we go way back, and way back when he was the Yeti and Monkey Bone. We
Oh,
both go, we used to be, that's where we were, and look where we are, but yeah, he's terrific.
and he's in Hocus Pocus. I think we're gonna hopefully see him again in the upcoming movie. Are you excited about that one?
Yeah, anything he's in, I'm really excited. I really didn't like Hellboy, but I always went to see it because I wanted to see Doug. I thought Doug was brilliant as that character. And so when you have a friend, you have skin in the game. And I do. When my friend is there, I'm going to go see him. I don't care if I don't like it or not. I'm going to go see it because Doug's there, and support him and write to them and go, you really should use that guy more because he's really brilliant, so I'll do that often, and he'll do it for me too, so he's love. I just love him. So proud of him, and I'm glad y'all do too,
Oh yeah.
because he's brilliant. What's not to love?
Oh yeah, and I mean you've worked with some amazing people, because I'm looking at some of the notable people that are associated with you, which was some of your work was in Captain EO as well. I have to ask about Michael, because I've interviewed other people that have worked with him before, and I love to ask the question, what is your favorite memorable memory about him?
Oh,
Um,
I have a couple,
okay.
because I played Idy and Odie, which meant that I was right next to him, and we rehearsed often together. So I have several memories. One is that he would invite us to his trailer to have grape fights every morning before we started. So he would have grapes brought in, and then we would run through. He had a good sized trailer,
Mhm.
and we'd run around and throw grapes at each other for about 10 minutes. And the ADs would be furious and not happy, but after all, it is Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So he gets to do what he wants. I thought he was a lot like my son when I met him. He was 25, but I thought of him. My son was 12 at the time, my stepson, and I thought, this is why we're getting along, because he just feels like my son. He doesn't feel like someone who's close to my age. I think we're about 3 years difference. I was 3 years, 4 years older, and I said he just feels much younger. And then you would see him, do his music or dance, and then you go, oh no, he's okay. Yeah, I see that, because I remember walking into the dance rehearsal, and they said, Michael, we're going to show you this number that we've done, and it's the, dun 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 dun, all that stuff. And he sat on the side instead of in the front or in the back to see what the dancers were doing, and he saw it one time, and then he did the whole thing. So I was like, oh my goodness, how do you even do that? So I was very impressed with him, as far as his ability. A very kind person, a very warm person. Uh, and so I used to go on the Captain EO set when everybody broke for lunch because dancers were like locusts. They just would go over the craft services table, and when the last one was done, there was nothing left. And I was kind of like, and then they're out back and they're smoking and they're, and I was like, how can these people even be doing this? Great, wonderful people, but not what my impression of dancers in the industry were like. So it was a real wake up call for me. Very nice and really dedicated, but it was just, and we'd all go to the commissary, but it was very noisy because other productions were there too. So I just wanted time to be with myself. So I would sneak onto what they call a hot set, which means you should not be sneaking onto it. But I did, and I sat on the stairs and I had my lunch and I just listened to the creaks of everything. And one day I went in and I heard noises and I said, hello, is anybody here? And Michael said, Terry? And I said, Michael? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, I usually come and have my lunch in here. Am I bothering you? Are you working on something? Are you building? What are you doing? Shall I leave? And he said, no, come. I'm having my lunch too. So we sat on the steps together and had lunch. And one of the things that a lot of people ask me is, why don't I have a lot of photos? The reason I don't is because these people are my colleagues. I never really looked at them as someone you take pictures with. They were people I worked with, and I don't take pictures with my coworkers. It's just something in my head that didn't really fit. But Michael had been used by everyone on the production. They would stand him next to him, and so he saw me and he said, Terry, of all the people who should have a picture with me, you have not asked. And I said, well, you're not a standee, Michael. You're a human being. And he said, I get that, but I want you to take a picture with me. So we have the picture of us together where he's looking at my portfolio. Because I never miss a trick. Michael, why don't we take this picture? Here it is right here. He's looking at my portfolio. And I'm saying, anytime you need someone who can build amazing things, you know who to call. So here I am being all super fancy about, oh, you're a human being, blase, but I'm going to show you my portfolio. So
You gotta network, right?
yo, baby. I mean, there you are. You're the king. I'm going to show you, But we sat and we ate, and I said to him, I said, Michael, can I ask you a very personal question? And he said, yeah. And I said, are you sure? Because it's really personal. And he said, yeah. And I said, if I were a genie or the blue fairy from Pinocchio, and I came down to earth and I looked at you and I said, Michael Jackson, for all the kindnesses and wonderful music you've done to make everyone feel great, I will grant you 3 wishes. What are they? And he said, wow, nobody's ever asked me that before. And I said, call me nobody then, and because I'm asking. And so he thought very carefully about it. And he said, the first one is I'd like to have my childhood back. And as we all know, Michael Jackson at age 3 or 4 or whatever it was, became this superstar with ABC. And then his parents wanted to pack him in bubble wrap and cotton because he was such a phenomenon and earning a lot at such a young age. So he never really got to climb a tree, and he never really got to do. And I think this is why grape fights. And he had a friend with him, and they used to talk about they would be at his estate and they'd lean over PCH and drop water balloons over convertibles. This is stuff you do when you're a little kid. So he was just kind of maybe recapturing his childhood as best he could. But that was number 1. Number 2 was to go shop at a mall and not buy it first. And I thought, whoa, okay, there's a real, wow, you have to buy it. He said, yeah, if I don't, I can't shop. It's just, it won't happen. If I just go into a mall, I'm not going to be able to shop. Just let's be real. And then the third one was to walk among people and not be recognized. Now I want you to think about this. I want you to think really hard. What is Michael Jackson actually saying? What Michael Jackson is saying, for all his fame, for all of the money, for all of the joy, he would rather be you.
Be a nobody.
He
Yeah.
wants to be you. He lived to be you. He wanted to be that person that could do their own grocery shopping, walk among people that they didn't know him, as well as those that do, and climb a tree. And I thought that was so profound. I just thought that was amazing to me. And before he passed, Rick Baker granted his third wish, which was to walk among people. Rick Baker, being one of the top makeup artists in the world, made Michael Jackson up into a Jewish little old white man. And he walked around and bumped into people on purpose. And he just giggled when they said, "Get away from me, old man." You know, and he just lit up telling the story of how for about 4 hours, people were watching to make sure nobody
Mhm.
hurt him or anything, but he walked around and nobody recognized him as he shuffled along and bumped into people and was played this little Jewish old man. He just loved it. He just loved it. So
I
that
love
story, I just love it.
I love that he's gotten the Elvis treatment where people are like, "Oh, he's still alive. He's still walking around to this day." And I kind of it's kind of magical a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that, the spirit of Michael is definitely there. It's his music is so compelling, you can't not dance to it.
Mhm.
I can't play it in here while working because I don't get any work done. It's just so infectious. And I think there's a lot to be said by that. We have a lot of artists out there that when you hear their music, you're like, oh my gosh, I got to stop,
Mhm.
and really enjoy it. Yeah.
And he'll
Yeah.
come
So he's
alive.
amazing.
He'll come alive in a couple months when October comes around. Thriller.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. And D23, I have several people that dress up with him and they do as him, and they do such a great job as Captain EO, and they come by and say hello to me. And their costumes are fantastic. I mean, today's cosplayer is really a phenomenon because they really nail some of these costumes. You go, I'm sure glad you weren't competing when I was competing. I would have had to work harder,
right? Right.
so very
These
impressive. Yeah.
these costumes are movie quality. And I have to ask because one of my other favorite films is Men in Black. Your incredible work with Wee Hank and Bob.
I mean, so funny that I get to do this movie. Okay, I audit and I got to play this shark bounty hunter, and when the director saw it, he wanted to give me the part, but the producer said no, not now, not now, because I made the shark sound like this. So, boys, what do you want to do now? I think we can go and get this guy, because he had all these shark teeth. So I just couldn't help myself talking like that. And the director liked it. The producer said, "No, we're not going to feature a bounty hunter." And so he's in the background a lot. But we had a lot of fun doing the character. And then, of course, the twins. I was with the team of 4 or 5 others per twin operating the arms, and someone operated the eye of the twins, and we were underneath the floor where you'll find most puppeteers, underneath, not on it, doing these characters. And then the little worm guys that I did in the second one because it was a big ensemble group. The first one was a lot of my friends like Tim Blaney and I think Kevin Carlson and Carl were the original 3. But when they opened it up to everybody, I got to do some ensemble characters, which was really fun. And then the scrubbing bubbles, I got to puppeteer them. They go along and they scrub in there and everything. So Will Smith and I have done 2 or 3 films together, and I know him very well. And we really bonded because someone from Laughing Place sent me Emperor's New Groove. They sent me the DVD of Emperor's New Groove. And they said, be careful because if you watch it on set, you might disturb the set. That's exactly what happened. I started laughing so hard that they started to say, what is all that noise? So I waited till lunch, ate my lunch on set again. I tend to do this just outside the set of Men in Black. And Will was going to film a music video there. And so I'm laughing, just Emperor's New Groove is such a brilliant film. I just can't get over how funny that film is. And I'm laughing and laughing, and I can't even breathe because I'm laughing so hard. And Will comes up behind me and says, "What the heck are you watching?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, I was sent Emperor's New Groove. Have you heard of this film? It doesn't have a lot of hype, but man, it is so good. It's what animation is all about." And he's like, "Well, I got a couple of minutes." I said, "Well, let me start it over." So he sits next to me and we're watching this movie until he has to go. Dude, he goes, "Oh, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna grab that." And then he went in and did his music video. But it was really, really funny. That I mean, we were just, what? Because it's a belly. You cannot. I don't know. Maybe you're someone who doesn't have a belly laugh when you watch that, but
Oh, yeah.
oh my gosh! And then I went to do Talking Mickey Mouse down in Florida. And they finally said it was too big to work. So now it's a chip. So that Talking Mickey Mouse originated with me. And now it's a chip. So it's now the chip does everything. But at the time I was doing the puppetry for it. But when I was down there, I met the animators of Emperor's New Groove. And I just had to tell them that how did you get this through? Because it's so genuine and sweet and warm and animatory. You know, the definition of an animator is taking the distance between 2 points and making it as funny as possible. And the bridge sequence is unbelievable. When you say, "Okay, here's a bridge. Now, animators, funniest way, go." They really do it. They told me that I recognize when the log, they're tied to the log and they're coming down the water, that every time it hits land or a mountain, it's on the llama side. That's why Pacha is saying, "That's not so bad." And the llama's like, "I hate this." He's the one that's getting hit. And I hadn't noticed that when I went back and watched it. Sure enough, it's hitting the llama side every time. And then that becomes funny. So I really enjoyed telling and the animators said they got it through because Disney was looking at Treasure Planet. They were all focused on Treasure Planet. And so this group got to make their movie. And we got it because of Treasure Planet. So there is something to like about Treasure Planet. I really didn't like Treasure Planet, but I like it because it distracted Disney so that we could get Emperor's New Groove.
Right? Who knows what it would have been, if Treasure Planet hadn't been. Who knows?
Well, and they said, usually what happens as an animator in Disney is sometimes you're not left to play. They have they kind of stifle that a little bit. Not always, but in the case of Treasure Planet, I guess that's exactly what happened, because it really wasn't a good movie. And yet these people that were, look over there, they got to do this brilliant little film. And that is created. My favorite villain of all time was Maleficent until Yzma.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Yzma and Kronk, that when Kronk is humming his own theme song, you can't even breathe. It just got so many great funny bits. I think it's what animators dream to do. I think if you're an animator, this is the kind of film you want to create. It's something wild and crazy and just so funny that you can't breathe. I just love it. I just love it so much.
Jerry says, "Squeak, squeakity, squeak, squeak."
Yes, exactly. Squeaker, 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 squeaker.
Have you seen people get on the ride at Disneyland and pretend to be, I guess there's like viral pictures. I don't know. I think it's at Disney, but there's people that get on the ride right before it drops and pretending to be Kronk and Yzma.
I love it. I think that's really cool. I just there are so many moments. We could talk about that movie forever because it's got so many beautiful moments. It's got so many special moments. The two kids, how many have done that? It's just every little bit is so precious. And I was to be able to tell the animators. And it makes me think of Iron Giant, because when I was doing Monkey Bone, Henry stepped forward and said, Henry Selick said, and Henry is the creator of James and the Giant Peach and did the animation for Nightmare Before Christmas for Tim Burton. And he stood in the middle of all of us. He called this big meeting and said, "You got to go see Iron Giant. It's not getting the audiences." And that was because the campaign looked like an Altoid commercial. I would see these posters and I thought, is that a new Altoid? Because it was that kind of minty color. And then it was like red. And I was like, are they redoing their box or something? I didn't even know Iron Giant was a film. And then he said, you've got to go see it. And I sat in the theater, and the scene where the giant jumps into the lake, I lost it. I lost it in the theater. I mean, not like, I'm one of these people that doesn't worry who's around me. So don't go to the movies with me if you tend to be embarrassed.
We're going to the movies. We're going to go to the movies.
I mean, loud. And I mean, it was so funny. I could not catch my breath. And afterwards, a man tapped me on the shoulder and said, you have made my day. And I said, why? And he said, I'm the animator of Iron Giant. And I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. He says, I know you really loved it. He said, I don't think I've seen anyone enjoy it as much as you. I said, it's a brilliant film. It's a brilliant film, dude. It's a brilliant film. So, you know, they can be made. The point is they can be made. Disney does not have to copy old stuff. They just have to create good quality new stuff. And instead of starting with special effects, start with, I know it's going to really scare you. Start with a story. Just start with a story. You can do it, Disney. You've done it a million times. Start with a story and build from there. And you know, you can tell the same story. Mulan, young girl, has to protect her father. She's not allowed to do it because she's a woman, but she's got to do it. She has a brain. She uses her brain. Next thing you know, she rises above the ashes and saves China. Okay, now put it in a different, you know, put it in a different perspective. Just insert another character and let them do that same arc. Kung Fu Panda, big fat panda, dreams of being a kung fu guy, plays with action figures, super nerd. All right. Everybody teases him. Everybody tells him he's not worthy. Everybody tells him he's insulting, blah, 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 only to become the kung fu, you know, the great kung fu warrior. So it's the same story, you know, How to Train Your Dragon.
Brave.
Same lace, same little vellum. We don't need you to reinvent the wheel. Just tell us a good story of being a normal, kind of abused, kind of misunderstood person who rises and achieves greatness. So that's the story I love, and I'll watch it a million zillion times, and I don't care who tells it, and I don't care how many times it's told, as long as it's told well. So to see garbage, to see Disney put out garbage really hurts. That's our family, and we know they can do better. You see your kid and they're not achieving what you think they can do. You're sitting there going, we know you can do better. We've seen it. What's wrong? What's up? What are you afraid of? And that's what I say every day. Disney, what are you afraid of? You know, you can do this. It's so simple. You know, and Star Wars, it's even more simple because between the time that the 3 films came out, 77, 80, and 81, there was a big lull of nothing before George Lucas brought those really horrible prequels. And if you were born during that time, I know you love those, so you're allowed because you were raised on those. But I'm 65, I was raised on the others, and they're really not good. But the point is that in between that time, we had brilliant writers. Star Wars was the basis for so many people's careers. George Lucas, when I spoke with him finally, because he was on Captain EO, he was afraid to meet me because of 180 viewings. He figured I was going to be Darth Vader's love child or something. But when I sat down with him, I said, I got to tell you, you changed my life. You changed so many lives. Writers felt that they could be writers. Artists like myself knew there was a place for me as an artist. Creators, designers, costumers. We saw in your film, we saw that we could do it in that one film. And so in between there, we had writers and cartoonists and animators who rose from the ashes and made stuff, wrote books, wrote like those little paper novels. They did all comic books. They did everything. So Disney only has to look through that body of work between those times and say, we're going to make this. Mm-hmm. Call the artists up and say, hey, we want to make your thing. There's a reason Mandalorian is successful. They called these two nerds up and said, you want to do this nerdy Star Wars stuff like you did when you were younger? And they're like, yeah. So it's a lot.
Hire the fans.
It's so easy. You don't have to work so hard, and we're all going to love it. Mm-hmm. So, don't try to invent the whole thing yourself. You can do this on your own, but you need to pull in the people that really inspired us at the time when it was our dark times, our Star Wars dark times. And then you can make that real, and they're going to be really happy. I would be. And it's going to be good stuff because they're not turning out good stuff. Mm-hmm. And as Disney and as Star Wars people, we're like, really? Are you serious? You give me this? What is this? Chinese garage sale stuff? What's going on? I don't mm-hmm. What is that you're showing me? And they get upset. They say we just didn't watch it enough or whatever. They're making excuses. The excuse is you're not being true to these characters, and so you're dissing us by mistreating our Star Wars characters. So I don't know. Maybe they'll do something. Maybe they'll listen to you, Veronica, and they'll go, oh, maybe we should do that. Stop copying. Don't trace. We didn't like Bakshi that much. He always traced, and some people like Bakshi, but he always traced. He didn't care. He always traced.
I'm curious the number one fan when you thought of the sequels.
Which sequels? The Phantom Menace, the Phantom,
the last three with Kylo Ren. And...
Oh! Ouch! Well,
ouch.
6. What was it? 7. Mm-hmm. Made me so angry. And I went to a private screening, and I was in the second row looking right at J.J. Abrams, and I think they didn't have a Q&A because I went like this. Shame on you. Shame on you for 7. Shame on you, buddy. How dare you? How dare you think that you can put a black person on there because you need a black person? Replace Luke Skywalker with a woman because, hey, we got to put a woman in there. Women don't want to be the quota. Mm-hmm. They want to be in because it's a good role. Okay. She was a quota. I hate to say it. She was a quota. And then the poor black guy is a quota. And then you put the 2 films, the original Star Wars from 1977 next to this one. And all he's done is copied it. Mm-hmm. It's very frustrating. What's the matter with you, fool?
I was upset that they killed off the most interesting character, which was Kylo Ren.
Well, in Kylo Ren, I'm not a big fan of that guy's acting. He's so friggin' wooden. Dear God. What is he, a stick puppet? All the time. I can't. Yuck. And I'm like, come on. You can do this. Are you not giving him enough to do? Or is he really that dull? Because I'm dying, and I have a friend. She says, but he's really cute. I don't care. I want to see story. I don't want to see cheesecake. I want to see a story. Make a good story. And it's just like, Disney says in episode 7, we didn't have any idea. The reality of episode 7 for Star Wars, they could have vomited on the screen and we all would have went to watch it. And honestly, vomit would have been way more interesting than that movie. So that really upset me. Mm-hmm. I think the best one was what was it? The 8th one. Mm-hmm. The Rogue One. Yeah. Rogue One. I thought that was great, but they killed off cool characters again. Mm-hmm. I fell in love with 2 characters. They die, and I'm like, come on. The real fact of the matter is you have a Star Wars universe. Keyword universe. You don't need to raise the dead with Carrie Fisher. Mm-hmm. And we don't need to do a young Luke Skywalker over an actor in a green face. Okay. Find an actor who looks like a young Skywalker type. And then Luke can retire. He can do voices. He does a great Joker. Go do that. You've done lots of Star Wars. Stop resurrecting people who are gone and go into the universe. I would like to learn more about the Star Wars universe.
Mhm.
There's so many facets. And when you do that, we could learn about Darth Maul.
Mhm.
Darth Maul has really crappy makeup, but he's an amazing character. And the only reason he lost in the prequels because he wasn't in the next ones.
Mhm.
And that we thought was pretty silly because he was far more superior in firepower than Obi-Wan.
Mhm.
But Obi-Wan was in the original, so you got to kill him. And you don't want to think that when you're watching it. You don't want to have that in your head as a person. You got to, that guy's really amazing. Wow. But he's going to die because we didn't get to see him in the original Star Wars and it doesn't work. You don't want to think that. You want them to think a little bit more. So, I mean, this is, of course, only my opinion. And I've gotten some good opinions from people who love the first, the prequels, but then they grew up with them. So, of course, they love them. They're special to them in a different way that I will never know. So, I give you that. If that was what you grew up with, power to you. That's the lovely thing about America. You can love them as much as I hate them.
You have a whole generation too that they're like me, where we were babies when the prequels came out, and so it's a little different. So it might
is.
be generational.
It's not generational. It's just that when the first 3 came out, people like me got all 12 books. George Lucas wrote 12 treatments for the 12 books and picked number 4 to be Star Wars. So I know the stories. I know them all. I had all 12 treatments. Remember, I had this huge collection, huge, of
So you know
really
about
interesting
Mara
stuff.
Jade and
All kinds of cool characters in there. So these prequels kind of went on their own. And 1, 2, and 3, the challenge with 1, 2, and 3, and if you grew up with them, you don't know this, and this was your discovery. So I give you that. I'm not wanting to dish your films. I'm just saying, as someone who was with the originals, I'm looking at it watching the second one going, if they don't kill the princess, the third one has to be 5 hours long or it won't fit. This is a jigsaw puzzles, guys. It's got to connect. And it's not going to connect because 2, they did all this smarmy stuff that had nothing to do with anything. And you're like, how are you going to do 3? Because this is what Obi-Wan tells us in 4, and I'm not feeling it. I'm not seeing it in the 3 films. And when the third one comes out, it's going to be what, 6 hours long? Bring your bunny slippers because oops, we messed up. So it was really hard for me. And then my husband said, well, maybe Anakin doesn't remember that he was Anakin. Maybe as Darth Vader after the burn, he doesn't remember. And of course, they zoom in on him and he says, what of my wife? And you go, well, that's gone.
yeah,
Because he does remember. So they just made a mess of it, in my opinion, because it doesn't butt up. So you love it for it, and then you love the other. So Jerry, he thought Captain Kirk was good in Empire Strikes Back. He's so adorable.
The one thing that ruined it for me was someone pointed out that we had the grandson of Darth Vader and the child of Han Solo and Leia and the nephew of Luke and he's heir to Naboo and he's an Argana and all sorts of things, and we never really meet him ever. He gets no lines. The actual Ben Solo never technically gets lines because it's Kylo Ren talking the whole time. So that it was like it's almost like that water, that dump of water over your head. You're like, ouch.
And Ben Kenobi really ticked me off. I was like, Disney does Ben Kenobi, and I'm like, Ben Kenobi suddenly becomes the student. What? He has amnesia. He doesn't know how to be a Jedi. Give me a break. Well, he hasn't practiced in a while. Oh, come on. Seriously, think about yourself. Okay,
Yeah.
think about yourself. If you've ridden a bike and you haven't ridden 40 years, do you think you forgot how to ride a bike? Seriously, do you think you did? Because I'm telling you, you did not. And that is my problem. I was like, he's sitting there through half of the thing and he's more of a student than a leader. And I'm like, this is baloney. This is absolute baloney. So it's really hard when you look at a character and you go, this is not true, guys. Stop. And not every ending has to be happy. I like a really good story that has has substance. I don't need it to be all, I don't need to live in a cloud for the whole thing. You know, there's an amazing film called Pig with Nicolas Cage. If you haven't seen it, you got to see it. You'll be like, Pig, what's Pig? You got to see it. Don't worry about the title. It'll all be revealed when you watch it. But it really is a great, gritty, strong story. And you're going to be watching it going, what the? And it's on like Canopy, you know, your library video thing that if you have a library card, you get like 10 free movies or something. So you don't even have to pay for this movie. You can watch it. And Nicolas Cage is brilliant in it. And everyone around him is brilliant in it. And the story is phenomenal. So I just love movies where, you know, they just dig their teeth into the story. Make you want to read the book if there's a book. Okay. It's not going to be like the book because a book has lots of hours. But it is maybe going to entice you enough as a movie to say, you know, I'd really like to look into that book. And they've done their job. I love it. I'm watching it. I'd like to look at that book.
Jerry says the problem is that Disney always wants to put their Disney touch on projects. Mandalorian is great. I think, yeah, he might be a little correct, right? Because Disney wants to put that happy ending on everything, and not everything is happy.
The Little Mermaid lives.
I know.
The Little Mermaid lives in a Disney film. I hate to break it to you guys. She doesn't in the real fairy tale. So it's like, he's absolutely right. And they always do that. And life isn't like that, is it? You know, it isn't like that. I don't mind if there's an upswing after a sadness, but I think that you don't want to convey to people that everything is awesome when everything sometimes is not awesome, but can be. You know, sometimes you got to go through the darkness to get to the light. And it's not that it's, you know, it can be really awful. But if you're told as a young child that everything is just delightful and wonderful and fluffy, then you're going to go into life thinking it should be. And when you go the other direction, you're really going to have a hard time. And so, you know, there is no heaven without hell. You know, and you just get through it, and it builds character with you, you know, and it doesn't mean we invite it and we want it. Lord knows we'd love it to be nice all the time. But in films, we like when we're worried about our characters and then our characters pull through, you know, we love that.
Speaking of such a movie, you did Captain America as well. Team America. Sorry.
That Team America was so funny. Oh my gosh. I thought, who watches South Park anyway? I'd tune it in and go, what is the appeal? And then I'm on the Team America set and I'm like, this is so twisted. This whole movie is so twisted. And the two characters, Trey and whatever, they were really bizarre in themselves. Just two first of all, they had signs around them saying, do not interact with them, right? So you're like, okay. And they'd come to work. One of them was wearing the pajama bottoms and a shirt, and the other one was wearing the pajama top and pants. And you just stood there and you said, I'm beginning to understand South Park now, you know, because they were so bizarre, the two of them, just so unusual. And it was funny to be a part of such a movie. It was so wild to be a part of such an odd and strange movie as that, you know. I played mostly ensemble characters. So I played Samuel Jackson in FAG, the Film Actors Guild. And then I play a crying blind guy during the AIDS play. Yeah. So, but they pulled out all the stops, and I had to love them because nothing was safe. There was just nothing. I mean, in today's world where people are arguing whether or not an actor should play a certain character because they're not Latin or they're not this, and you've got this puppet going, I shall wound we. You're like, that's not offensive. I'm just asking, you know, and they just didn't care. And the sets were gorgeous. The Chinese set was all Chinese takeout. So the whole set was built out of Chinese takeout. And I was so fascinated by it. I just couldn't stop staring at it. It was just fantastic. And so that movie has got some beautiful, beautiful art in it, and some of the raunchiest scenes you're ever going to see. Catchy tunes with raunchy lyrics. And you're in the movie, and then you find yourself walking out singing these really raunchy, you know, it's quite a film. It's quite brilliant. I have to tip my hat to these two fellas because they really helped me to realize, that these guys have no catalytic converter. They have no off switch, and they just go for it, and everybody loves it. And so, wow. I mean, they go through every door and they offend every person, and they are having a ball.
Yeah.
So, if you don't like it, change the channel. But I never watched it. And when I was on the set, I just thought, there's no stopping these guys. They are going more and more and more into crazy, raunchy stuff. Amazing.
You never watched your own work?
No. I watched Team America, but I never watched South Park.
Oh, okay.
So when I did Team America, I was like, and there were scenes I didn't see because I was ensemble. So there was some sequence like the intimacy between the two characters. Never
the
did
doll
that.
sex.
Yeah. And all of this kind of thing. But I remember while we were on set doing this, I could see the validity of South Park. I was all of a sudden going, aha, it's sinking in now, because everything in Team America became, more and more and more and more and more. And you thought, you've got this, they're making fun of every kind of terrorist they believe. I mean, every single, I just don't even, how are they doing it? But they were the two guys that said, this is the way we're going to do it. And they hated puppets.
Mm-hmm.
They hated puppets. They just thought the marionettes were just the worst puppets they had ever worked with. So what I loved about them was that they didn't mind if you saw the strings, or they did this, or their feet were like, their butts were down and they're walking like this. They didn't care. They didn't care, so the puppets sagging and walking, they didn't care. And yet people just love the movie. Just a couple of guys that said, we do what we do.
They were purposely being awful. They were purposely being awful.
They were, they didn't, why is most people, when they do marionettes, they go, come on, the puppet's sagging, or we see the strings, and we often as puppeteers go, they're puppets. We see the strings, we know they're marionettes, of course you're going to see the strings. Well, Trey and they didn't care. They're puppets, show the strings. And they would be, the puppet's supposed to be straight, and all of a sudden it would sag, and their little feet would be going like this, and they're sagging. In some cases, they're in these weird, they just said they're puppets. This is the fun part. If they walk stupid because the person up there has not quite got it right, so what?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you were like, you got to like these guys for that.
Yeah.
Because as puppeteers, they're always like, you need to hide the strings, the strings, blah, 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 the strings. And you're like, it's a puppet, what are you trying to do? Make it not a puppet?
Put it in post.
Yeah, and they would erase the strings. A lot of things try to erase the strings and everything. And that's kind of the charm of them. So I sat there and I thought, these guys are like, show it all.
Yeah.
And people loved it. Yeah, Jerry says it's the way he walks.
The way I walk.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Do you have a favorite memory working with them?
With them, I didn't. I was on the set a lot less than most. But my favorite was doing the We've Got AIDS sequence, because the character had to turn sideways and lift his hand up and dot his eyes to cry. And when I saw the movie, I got a 2-shot with him. And there were easily 50 puppets in the audience. So I just assumed I was going to be part of the big, and they just zoomed right in. In both times I did my character, they zoomed in and did a 2-shot. And I was just so honored. They never spoke to me, never talked with me. And that was because, you stay away from them. But I remember just looking at the sets and the detail and the beauty of it, and watching how the main puppeteer on the marionettes was Scott Land. He's one of the more brilliant marionetteists in our time. And the strings were 12 and sometimes 24 feet long. So most of the time when a puppet is being performed, you try to keep the string length 3 feet, but you couldn't pull back enough on the set. So they had to be at least 6 feet, 12 feet, 24. And for every set of feet, there's more sway. It's harder to get them to move because you have all this string. And Scott did extremely well with what he had. But that's when Trey said, well, we hate these, but so what if they swing? Or so what if they, so in sequences like the doll sex and stuff like that, they brought the strings down, shot tighter, and then allowed them to puppeteer a little closer because they had to be a little more accurate, if you will.
Accurate. Yeah, that's a good word.
You got to get the target, basically. Yeah. So, but he did most of it. He was the number one puppeteer on the project because he was just so good with it, and it was very impressive. But yeah, it's a very challenging film to do, and yet people love it. I love it. I had to laugh at myself because I'm walking out of the theater singing "We're Americans," and I go, "Wait a minute. That is a very foul song. America. Why am I singing it to the top of my lungs?" And I was, because it's so catchy.
Yeah.
These guys are brilliant. These guys are scary brilliant. I got to watch these two. I got to be careful with these two.
As we wind up this interview, I have to ask, as you mentioned Sherry Lewis earlier, and there is a terrific story from Joshua, but I wanted you to tell it, where you met her.
Oh my gosh. Sherry Lewis. My mentor, Pat Breimer, who passed away in 2020. And it was devastating for me because what a great guy. He taught me everything about making puppets, about performing puppets. And we were going to do a show together, and COVID hit, and then he passed away, and I miss him terribly. But Sherry Lewis loved Pat Breimer. Many people loved Pat Breimer. He was a brilliant puppet maker, performer, just a genius among geniuses. There wasn't anything the man couldn't help you with puppets. And he was on Team America, and he would help them with everything there too. But Sherry saw him, and she just flipped over him. Anytime she wanted to do some wild and crazy puppet thing, Pat would make it happen. And so he suggested, when she wanted a female character to work off of her, he said, you got to meet Terri. So I'm coming home from cutting car mats. I think when you're creative, your idea of a paying job is a job that works around your art, which isn't always the way, but I would usually do swing shift jobs or jobs that gave me 4 days and 3 days off. I was always looking for a job that was either artsy or allowed me to do my art most of the time. And I was coming home from cutting car mats, and I had an answering machine. Those of you that don't know what that is, Google it. And I hit the button, and it was, Terri, this is Sherry Lewis. I'm wondering if you can come and see me. And I was like, all right, who's punking me? Come on. It's too late for this. But I called the number, and a lady answered, and she says, residence of Sherry Lewis. And I said, come on. And I said, this is Terri Hardin. I think I got a call from Sherry Lewis. And she said, yes, you did. Sherry would like you to come to her home in Hollywood and meet with her. She's looking for a puppeteer. Pat Breimer recommended you. And I was like, holy moly, this is real? And she said, yeah. So I remember going to her home and stepping in the doorway. And the first thing I caught was like 20 Emmys, like 20 of them. Like, holy wow. This lady has 20 Emmys sitting here. And I kept staring at the Emmys. And then this beautiful tiny lady walked out, and she said, hi. And she says, we're going to sing together, and we're going to puppeteer together. Again, no photos, guys. And we sang and we puppeteered. And she ended up picking another friend of mine because my hand was slightly too large. But I remember sitting her and telling her, I have this, when I was being bullied, I made a lamb chop and they became my buddy. And I said, that's all your fault. And then later I did a show called Puzzle Place and invited her to come down. She came down to see Puzzle Place. You think those puppeteers didn't plots? Here and she comes, this icon walking in. Same deal with June Foray. June Foray taught me voices. And so then I said to June Foray, I said, June Foray would always go, oh no, Terri's coming again. And it was because I'd go, June, can you do her for me? And she'd go, oh, Terri, really? I go, but she's my favorite. Would you do it? She would say, my name is Ducky Tina, and I'm going to kill you. That was my favorite voice. Come on, do the Tina voice. She just goes, I do amazing voices, and all Terri wants to hear is, I'm going to kill you. But I would invite her to dinosaurs. I would invite them to various places because I knew they were just as excited to see things as I was. So I wanted to pay it forward for them. And they had a great time. And it was just such a, these people that you meet, you think to yourself, whoa, you do, but they're working with you. You're actually sitting next to them and you're working and you're like, oh my gosh, this is, and then afterwards you go, oh yeah, they were pretty famous. Like Michael Jackson wanted to know my favorite actress, which was Elizabeth Taylor. Mm-hmm. And he says, why? And I go, I love Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Long as she can, honey. Long as she can. And I said, that woman can really rock a slip. And Michael just laughed. Mm-hmm. 2 days later, she's holding her hand out to me saying, Terri, I hear you're very talented. Michael told me. And I'm like, sweating and disgusting, and I'm like, oh yeah, oh my god, and wiping my hand, and wow, what a gracious lady, what an amazing and fun woman. And then she plays the mom on Flintstones, and I tell the Henson people, I wonder if she remembers me, and everybody goes, I wonder if she remembers me. Oh, Michael Jackson. Oh, and I'm standing on the Flintstone set and she steps up and said, is that my good friend Terri Hardin? And I go, I turn around. Elizabeth Taylor and Michael Jackson never missed a name. Never. And my excuse was, I meet so many people, I can't possibly remember all the names. That's baloney. They could remember every single name. And I was like, boy, I feel like I feel like my Pinocchio is growing ears now. I've got the donkey ears on my head now. Because boy, am I using excuses, Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Just these icons, they just put you in your place, that's for sure. Without even putting you in your place. They just say profound things and wonderful things. And you sit there and you go, dog, I need to be more. I need to be like them. I got to be gracious like them, kind like them, be the ambassador for actors like them. And they were just,
that is so wholesome.
So many people that are so good. Elizabeth Taylor taught me how to walk like a star at Universal. Taught me how to behave like a true lady of the silver screen. And she just was amazing. So yeah, every time you turn around, you're like, yeah, I hung out with the B-52s. What the hell? Sitting with Halle Berry and saying, I have a sister just like you. Really? I have a sister just like you. Oh my gosh, just weird. Just so surreal.
This show's going to need a part 2 eventually.
You've got it. You've got it. Anything I can do to be of service, you bet. You bet. And that goes for everybody out there. If they have questions and say, bring her back, then I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to tell you specifically what it is, if you have that question. The Imagineering question, I feel you. People say, study hard, go to school, do all that stuff. It's all true. But don't wait. Get on social media and create. Because there are lots of examples on social media where they have been very successful. What was the man who sang and all of a sudden he's the lead singer of, I can't remember the band, but he just got on social media and started singing. And the next thing you know, he's the number one singer. They heard him and said, oh, there's the guy we need. There you go.
That happened to Justin Timberlake.
Well, Justin Timberlake, yeah, but I think he was Discovered or
Boy
whatever.
Band, yeah.
And everybody said, wow, he's really good. And I'm happy for him. But But there's a guy who wanted to be an editor for trailers and films, and no, he couldn't get in the door. So he did Mary Poppins as a thriller.
Mm-hmm.
He recut Mary Poppins as a thriller. He called it Scary Mary.
Scary.
It opens up with, "Stay awake. Don't close your eyes. She came in the night." And they show her floating down.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And he did The Shining as a slapstick comedy. And so he re-edited these two things, put them on YouTube. Guess what he got? Trailer. People offering him to do trailers. When you make it and you create it and you post it with your dream, then you just got to figure out when they call, how much will you charge? That's it. That's it. I've seen it. It works. It may take some time, but they are looking, they're looking for that next amazing person, and you could be it. So if you really believe you've got what it takes, don't hesitate. You think Disney needs a few new attractions, or you have a theory on how they can make the prices lower.
Yes, please.
Walt never wanted it to be for the elite and only the elite. He wanted it for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I have said, if they brought the Disney dollars back and sold them to collectors to help lower the price, it would be done.
I'm sure, because I know so many people that would buy it up.
Who the heck was the genius that thought gift cards were better than the official Disney dollars? What a loser. What the heck?
I still have
gift cards. Do you realize that when the Disney dollars came out, Disney went as far as to make them legal tender? They were actually real dollars that were only found at Disneyland. And this brilliant person, whoever they are, and if you're listening, I apologize, but I have no catalytic converter on my mouth. You change it to those gift cards that people can reload. The dollars were printing money. Mm-hmm. All of you out there, I know you have some. Mm-hmm. I know you do. And if you were at the 50th anniversary at Disneyland and you had yours signed by, what's his name, Boyer, you still have it. They only did 50 of those. 50 times 50 is what, gang? Guess what Disney got to do? Bank it. Because you weren't about to use it for money. Mm-hmm. I want the Disney. I want a Terri dollar. I look at that and I think this is the most brilliant thing. This is one of the most brilliant things Disney has ever done. Beautiful, exquisite little pieces of art that people pay money for and they don't spend. Do you really think that Bezos and Jobs are so brilliant when that happens? I don't know that they have anything like that, guys. They are doing some amazing things. But I don't know how you can get people to collect money and not spend it. The Disney people did this.
Hopefully you're listening, Disney.
And then they did it, and then they stopped. And you're just like, I can't even believe it. Could it be that Nike's involved and you only know tennis shoes? I'm just asking.
Wow. Hopefully. I hope you guys are listening. I hope Disney's listening tonight. I hope you guys get an idea. I'd love Disney bucks back. That would be so cool. Because
I know you're out there going, yeah. Yeah. I like gift cards. But oh my goodness, how brilliant is to print off. What does it cost to do these? I mean, seriously, you're Disney. What does it cost to do? You're probably doing millions of these, and millions of these are now. Once in a while, a kid's going to spend it. Okay, your $3, your $10, your $5, but your collectible dollars. No. It's genius. It is so smart. It is so brilliant. I wish I'd come up with it myself. Just brilliant.
Hopefully Disney's listening tonight. I hear that they are watching. They're always watching. Just always assume they're watching. So.
So take a part of that money and say, we're going to grant it to so many lucky people and discount you want to make a contest out of it. You want to make it a marketing tool. There's no better marketers than Disney. They just lost their minds a little bit. So now let's bring them back and work out a plan where people can submit for this thing and they get to go for less money. And Disney doesn't lose anything. They lose nothing. People are going to buy these like crazy. The art was spectacular. The only thing they got to do is let me illustrate one. I'm going to illustrate one on my own anyway. But I mean, let's pull artists in to do some really fun ones based on the characters. They're just so beautiful. They were all so gorgeous. Every single one was a little piece of art. I just don't. I don't know.
Bring them back because you could collect them even if you never put $20 in, then you've taken it and maybe your kid keeps it and. Who knows?
You don't spend it. And so all of that money is just going to rise in your account.
Mm-hmm. They used to have the pennies too. They don't do that anymore. I got so mad last time I was there.
That's a shame too.
Mm-hmm.
Since people keep telling you pennies are worthless.
Mm-hmm. You used to be able to flatten your pennies and get like a Mickey on your penny and
for not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
People love those. I don't even know why. I don't know. Some of these things are boggle the mind.
Someone needs to go and like and write Disney and be like, look.
Seriously, if you did those dollars, now the dollars are just giving you billions of money because they're not spending them. Mm-hmm. Yes, there's going to be a few kids that spend them, but for the most part, people don't spend them. I know I still have a set of Pirates of the Caribbean dollars with the black pearl and all of those ships on them. They were $20 a piece. They're absolutely stunning. And thank you, Bridget. But it's just going to accumulate. All the money is just going to accumulate there. Then you say to yourself, portions of this should go to get people so that they can come into Disneyland. Whether you make it a day, a week, a weekend, where you invite everybody that cannot afford it to join, people that, because there's so many people that are so sad because it's just gotten so expensive they can't even begin to think about getting a ticket because they have a family of 4 or 2 people or whatever. This would be a great way to supplement it. Maybe they have to answer a Disney trivia. Make it fun. And people would love it. People would love it. But you got to think and you got to create. You can't just phone it in, And if you do, I know so many people. I know myself. I was collecting Disney dollars. I'd see a piece of art I liked and say, "Oh, I want one of those."
Mm-hmm. Maybe they're listening.
Yeah, hope so.
Where can we find you? Because we have to do this again. Definitely, like I said, we have to do this again. And next time I see you, I'll reintroduce myself and be like, "By the way, my name is Veronica."
No, I'll remember. I'll remember. I'll remember because unfortunately, you were really so patient, wonderfully so patient. As I kept saying, I'm in family craziness right now, just hang in there. And I've done that with a lot of podcasters. I'm like, I'm so sorry. It's just insane in my life. My life is crazy. I can't bring it. I'm wang, whatever. But you, patreon.com/Terri Hardin is my Patreon page. And the reason I say that is your voice is just as important as my voice on this. When I was drafted when I got this page. And at the time I was really not liking the person who drafted me. She did it at the worst time. But what's happening is the community has become a group of people that help each other. So I'm there, but I am a cog in the whole thing. I'm not the star. I'm the person that's kind of, saying your voice is heard. And the base, it's a subscription, full disclosure, guys. I'm not going to, lure you in, but full disclosure, it's $5 a month to do it. And you can do it one thing at a time. $5 a month, patreon.com/Terri Hardin, $5 a month. And if you go 2 months and you think it's not for you, you leave or you stay. And it's just been phenomenal. That's one of the places I can gather with you. And we do a Zoom call every week, which means you actually do get to have a conversation for $5 a month. So you can see it's not the money. But I want to have people who have skin in the game. So that's your toll. You got to have skin in the game. A lot of times when people get things for free, they don't take it seriously. I need you to take it seriously, because people who come in there take it very seriously. They don't think about it lightly. It's a really great group of people. And that's where I'd say you can also find me on Instagram, Terri Hardin Legend. And then you can find me on YouTube. Just put it in the search box, Terri Hardin, and it'll pop up. You'll go, oh my God. There's so much. It's insane. And then if you've forgotten all of this, then just Google Terri Hardin and then step back, because a tsunami will happen and I don't want you to get hurt. But it's not bragging. It's just that I did it the other day and just about like said, oh Lord. Oh dear Lord.
Also, if you
So,
guys have trouble finding it, it is in the comments on Facebook, and it looks like YouTube. So if you guys just want to click, it's there.
yeah, and then I have Ask Me Anything's Fridays tomorrow. It goes for about an hour or two, where you can just about ask me anything in the comments, and it goes from 9:35, hopefully I'm not late, to about 11 o'clock or noon. All through the pandemic, I would talk for hours because people would say they just needed someone to listen to. So it's called Terri TV, but just put in Terri Hardin and it'll pop up, and it's real easy to find. But yeah, and I'd love for you to come and say hi and where you heard, and that you like the show tonight, whatever. Veronica, I want to thank you, and Joshua for, Joshua said she'd really like to interview you. Of course. Don't be, yeah. I don't say no to podcasters. You guys work hard. You guys work so hard. My husband goes, do a podcast. No, they work hard. It's hard to do a podcast.
It is a full-time job. It is.
And you guys are so brilliant at it. You make it look easy. I think that's why other people go, well, we'll just do a podcast. It's like they say, well, I'll just be a puppeteer. Yeah, good luck with that. Start lifting weights now. But when you make your job look so easy, that's when people really enjoy and love it. So yeah, I have a huge respect for podcasters and people like you. People will go, Terri, when you're live, you should interview people. I'm like, no.
And I just want to say thank you too, because you have been a trailblazer in film and in media, and thank you so much, because someone like me would not have had a space at the table at all when I was studying, because it was unheard of for a woman to be in this field at all back when you were blazing trails. So thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. And we still to this day want to be an inspiration to all of you. Don't let people dictate your life. People are going to come in and their whole sole purpose is to poison you. Mm-hmm. And they may not know that when they intend it, and they may full well know that that's what they intend, is to take you down because they're miserable. Misery loves company. Or someone who's just trying to protect you but says the wrong words to you. And sometimes that can be a husband, wife, parent, someone close to you. And you're going to have to ask yourself, are you going to let them tell you that you're not worthy? Or are you just going to go for it? Because the unicorns in the world have to fight to get to where they are. It's not given. And we're happy to do it, because the journey is really the ups, the downs, or, I was fired from Country Bears only to be rehired. I burst into tears. I thought to myself, why am I crying? Because I thought the Country Bears were okay, but I burst into tears. And then around Christmas time, the guy called me and said, where do we send the contract for the Country Bears? And I was like, you must got the wrong girl. I got fired from there. And they were like, I've got Terri Hardin playing Big Al and Trixie. And Trixie, can I drive over and sign this before people realize I'm not supposed to be on the movie? So you have your downs. You have times when you just think people are treating you, very terrible, but you just get through it. And the next time something opens up, and it's super fun, like the last season of Outrageous Pumpkins and the season before that, I told them, always ask. They wanted me to be a contestant. I said, I'd be a better judge. So always ask. And if you don't know, then reach out to me and say, I'm nervous about this. can you tell me how I might, get some of that, mojo so that I can get this job? I'm right here. Okay.
Definitely. Thank you. Oh, whoa. I'm getting feedback. Sorry about that.
I was going to say, someone just duplicated my laugh. Beautiful.
Yeah, that was my mixer. I hit my mixer. Oops.
I love it.
So definitely this is going to have to be a part 2. Next week we have, or actually this Saturday we have a regular episode 2. This has been a special episode, so thank you so much for being a part of it.
Thank you.
So hopefully you guys join us on Saturday for our regular episode on Saturdays, and see you soon, Terri, for part 2, and hopefully, and in the meantime, hopefully see you in person.
Yeah, a meetup. D23, here we come.
D23. Oh gosh, I just came back from Star Wars. I don't know about that.
I know.
But yeah.
I know. The cool thing about D23 is if you can't stand the inside, you just stand outside.
So join us, guys, on Saturday for Courtney Schaefer, who is you might recognize her last name, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Maybe we'll mention that. I'll see you all Saturday, and thank you so much, Terri, for joining us.
Yeah, be well, everybody.